For Jack Coleman, this day was like every day, but he had no idea that his world was going to change completely in a few hours. Jack, 30, was a hard-working and self-reliant man. He had built a beautiful farm with his hard work, where he lived with his wife Lisa. This farm was the result of his sweat and blood, his dream, his pride. Lisa was his wife, to whom he had been married for 20 years. He had spent his whole life with Lisa, loving her more than anything else. Jack always believed his marriage was perfect. Lisa was his soulmate, the greatest joy of his life. But the things that are dearest to us are the ones that give us the deepest wounds. Jack's best friend was Andrew Williams. The two were together since childhood. Both of them were unbreakable since school days. Jack felt that Andrew was like his brother, whom he could trust blindly. But perhaps the biggest enemy of trust is what we consider to be our own. That day, Jack was working on his farm. The light of the sun was falling on the fields, and a light breeze was blowing. Jack noticed from afar that there was a movement in the farmhouse. Usually Lisa was alone at this time, but today someone else was feeling the presence inside. In curiosity, Jack slowly moved towards the house. As he drew nearer, he heard laughter and whispers. Inside. "You're crazy. Jack would never suspect it," was Lisa's voice. "We have to be more vigilant. He won't tolerate if he finds out." It was Andrew's. Jack's heart began to beat faster. His legs suddenly weakened, but he pulled himself together and slowly approached the window. He peered from behind the curtain, and what he saw shattered his world. Lisa and Andrew were close to each other, with that closeness in their eyes that Jack had never seen between his best friend and his wife. The toolbox fell from his hand, but he managed to hold himself up. He didn't get in. He didn't make a fuss. Anger and humiliation were boiling within him, but he kept his mind cool. He knew that if he made a move now, he would be wrong. He quietly pulled out his phone and started recording the video. He needed proof, so that when he took the right step at the right time, no one could deny him. As soon as the recording was over, Jack walked away without making a sound. His eyes were now full of tears, but he was not crying. No, her tears had dried up now. He went straight to his lawyer and explained the whole situation. The lawyer explained to her that if she gathered evidence properly, he could not only divorce Lisa, but also dispossess her of his farm and other property. That night, Jack was standing outside the farmhouse. Inside, Lisa and Andrew were laughing, celebrating, as if they had fooled Jack. But what they didn't know was that Jack was no longer an innocent and trustworthy husband. Now he was just waiting to strike the right blows at the right time. Jack stayed up all night. What he had seen as he peered in through the window was moving before his eyes. A 20-year marriage, a childhood best friend, both betrayed him in the same house he had built with his sweat and blood. But Jack kept his anger under control. He knew that if revenge is to be taken, it has to be taken at the right time and in the right way. The first thing Jack did in the morning was to contact his lawyer. He showed all their recordings and evidence that he had collected last night. The lawyer explained to her that this evidence would prove to be very strong against Lisa in the divorce case. "If you do anything wrong in a hurry, things can get worse. We have to take every step carefully," the lawyer said. Jack nodded. He didn't want to do anything stupid. That evening, Jack met his daughter, Sarah. Sarah, 18, was studying in college and was living in a hostel away from the farm. Jack didn't want to put him in this situation, but he knew it was the right time to tell the truth. "Dad, are you okay?" asked Sarah when she noticed the tension on Jack's face. Jack took a deep breath and said, "Sarah, I've found out something about your mother, and you should know this too." Sarah was silent for a while. Then he said softly, "Is this what I anticipated?" Jack looked at him in astonishment. "Dad, Mom has been behaving strangely for the past several months. Whenever I came home, she would try to go out on one pretext or the other. Many times he had said strange things to Uncle Andrew in front of me. I didn't pay much attention then, but now I understand." Hearing this, Jack felt even more sad. Her daughter had felt it too, but she had never noticed it. "We can't leave this deception like this, Sarah," said Jack. "So what are you going to do?" asked Sarah seriously. "I'll give them what they deserve, but in the right way," Jack said. Over the next few days, Jack devised his plan. He sought help from some of his trusted friends, who were experts in legal matters. She began the process of removing her form from Lisa's name entirely. He didn't want Lisa to carry a single part of this form. Meanwhile, he started collecting more evidence at the behest of his lawyer. He installed more cameras in the house to get more concrete evidence. One night, when Lisa and Andrew were alone in the farmhouse, Jack sneaked into the camera's recordings. His blood boiled at what he saw, but he remained still. Now Jack decided to make his last move. He held a big dinner party and invited his close friends, relatives, and farm staff. In the middle of the party, when everyone was having fun, Jack suddenly came on stage. "Guys, I want to show you all something today," he said. He turned on the big screen, and there was all the doings of Lisa and Andrew. The whole hall was immersed in silence. Lisa's face turned white. Andrew panicked. "So that was our 20-year marriage, Lisa," said Jack in a cold voice. "And Andrew, you were like my brother." "And that's what you did?" People started whispering. Lisa didn't know what to say. Sweat was on Andrew's forehead. "That's what you both wanted, isn't it? Well, now everyone knows who you are." There was a deep silence in the party hall. The dark truth of Lisa and Andrew was exposed in the video playing on the big screen. People were whispering, some bewildered, and some staring angrily at Lisa and Andrew. Jack's plan had fully succeeded, to expose the cheaters in front of everyone. All the color had vanished from Lisa's face. His hands were trembling. She was trying to say something, but the words were stuck on her tongue. Andrew's face was also white, as if someone had shaken his life. Jack got down from the stage and stood directly in front of Lisa. Was that our 20-year marriage? Was this the truth of our lives? Jack's voice was not angry, but a cold rudeness that shook Lisa to her core. Lisa stammered, "Jack, this is not what you're thinking." But Jack had already looked into her eyes. There was still nothing but a lie. "To tell you the truth? It doesn't matter to me now, Lisa," Jack interrupted. "You insulted me the worst way behind my back, and that too with the same person I considered a brother? It wasn't just a betrayal of me, it was a waste of 20 years of my life. But now it's over." Tears welled up in Lisa's eyes, but these tears were not of remorse, but of fear. Andrew had not yet spoken, but as soon as he opened his mouth to speak, Jack looked at him and said, "You don't have to say anything, Andrew. You and Lisa are both dead tome now." Andrew tried to say something, but people were now looking at him with hatred. "Did you really think I wouldn't do anything knowing all this?" Andrew hurriedly said, "Jack, buddy, it was all a mistake. A big mistake." Jack laughed, a bitter laugh that echoed throughout the hall. "Friendship?" said Jack, narrowing his eyes. "You messed up the word friendship, Andrew, and now you're calling it a mistake." Lisa's humiliation and Jack's last blow. Lisa stepped forward and tried to hold Jack's hand, but Jack jerked his hand back. "Don't touch me, Lisa," Jack said. "You have ended this relationship with your own hands." People started staring at Lisa. So far, she was a perfect wife in the eyes of society, but now she was seen as a cheater. "What did you think?" continued Jack. "That you will use me, that you will destroy my honor, and you will not get any consequences for it." Lisa wanted to say something, but Jack held out a piece of paper to her. "The divorce papers." "Sign?" said Jack sternly. "Today, right now." Lisa's hands were shaking. He took the papers, and as he picked up the pen, Jack pulled out another document. "Oh, and yes, this farm is now entirely in my name. You've got to get out of here right away. Jack said coldly. Lisa's mouth fell open. Jack had already completed all the paperwork through lawyers. "You thought your plan would work, Lisa," said Jack. "But you forgot that I not only made this farm with hard work, but also put my mind to save it." Lisa looked at Andrew, startled, but Andrew himself was badly trapped. Lisa trembled and signed the divorce papers. She knew she had no choice left. "You've got to get out of here, Lisa," said Jack. "And Andrew, you too, because you have no place in this farmhouse." Andrew angrily exclaimed, "Jack, that's not right." But Jack looked at him and said, "Right and wrong is over now, Andrew. You made your choice long ago, and now I'm doing my own." People started clapping. Jack had saved his honor and taught the cheaters the right lesson. Lisa and Andrew were now facing the most hateful eyes as they left the party. They knew that their social status was also gone. When it was all over, Jack took a deep breath. Sarah came up to him and hugged him. "Dad, what you did was right," Sarah said. "Yes, daughter," Jack said with a smile. Now it wasn't just revenge, it was justice. Jack took a deep breath as Lisa and Andrew left the party. The eyes of everyone in the hall were still fixed on Jack. Some were applauding her courage. Some were still in shock that a 20-year marriage could end like this. But Jack had no regrets. He taught the deceivers a lesson in the way they needed to learn. Without anger, without raising a hand, just with his mind. Jack knew this was the first step to his victory. Now the next step he had to take was to completely wipe out Lisa and Andrew. He didn't want anyone else to touch his hard work, his land, and his identity. The next morning, Jack went to see his lawyer. He made sure that Lisa did not receive a single penny after the divorce. His team of lawyers had already handed full control of the property to Jack on the basis of evidence. "So there's nothing left for Lisa?" asked Jack to the lawyer. The lawyer smiled and said, "Nothing. No money, no forms, and no legal rights. He's nothing but a name anymore." Hearing this, a cold satisfaction came to Jack's face. Lisa was now beginning to realize what she had lost. He no longer had a home to live in. His bank accounts were also sealed by Jack's legal team because he had misused Jack's money. She now went to live with an old friend of hers, but gradually everyone started moving, away from her. Jack had money and power, but more than that, he had respect. And now Lisa had become a woman no one wanted to have in their house. Andrew's condition was worse than Lisa's. After the party, his company kicked him out. Jack had made sure that his old business partners recognized Andrew's real face. "We don't have to work with a man who can betray his best friend," the company's director wrote in the mail to Andrew. Andrew was now completely unemployed. Wherever he went, people looked at him with hatred. Jack's story had gone viral on social media, and now Andrew's name was known as just a cheater. After all this, Jack now had to move on with his life. He began to pay attention to the care of the farm. Sarah was always with him now, and the two planned to start life afresh. One day, Jack was working in his field when he saw an unknown woman coming towards his farm. "Hi, are you Jack Coleman?" she asked. "Yes, who are you?" asked Jack in astonishment. "My name is Emily. I've heard a lot about you. I'm a journalist, and I want to cover your story." Jack smiled. "The story is over," he replied. "No," Emily said. "I think your real story has just begun." Jack gave Emily's words a faint smile, but there was still a slight hesitation on his face. He never imagined that his story would get so much attention that a journalist would come to his farm to cover it. "Why do you want to tell my story?" asked Jack directly. Emily opened a notebook and said, "Because you're not alone, Jack. Many people are trapped in relationships where they feel cheated, but most of them either take wrong decisions in anger or they silently tolerate themselves as losers. You separated, you were patient, revenge in the right way, and kept yourself strong." Jack took a deep breath. He realized that he wasn't really alone. "All right," Jack said, "but I have one condition. This story should not be just one of revenge, but it should be one of justice and self-respect. Emily smiled. That's what I want, Jack. During this time, Lisa and Andrew's life was badly shattered. Lisa couldn't find a place to stay. The friends he had trusted were now distancing themselves from him. He tried to get a job in one or two places, but everywhere he got the answer, "We don't work with fraudsters." He had no money left with him. She was once the owner of Jack's farmhouse, but now she has to stay in cheap hotels. She tried to call Jack, but Jack blocked her number. Andrew's situation was even worse. He had at first thought that he would start a new life together with Lisa, but when Lisa herself was ruined, Andrew also distanced himself from her. Now he was caught up in his own lies and deception. Meanwhile, Jack decided to team up with Sarah to further his farm business. He met new investors, and gradually his work started going even better than before. Sarah was now completely with her father. She also decided to complete her college studies and started helping Jack to pursue his business. One day, when Jack was sitting on the balcony of his farmhouse, Sarah came up to him and said, "Dad, I'm proud of you." "I'm proud of you too, girl," Jack said. A few weeks later, Emily's article was published. From deception to justice, a man who saved himself, maintained his honor, and chose self-respect over revenge. The article went viral on social media. Thousands admired Jack, considered him an inspiration, and he found courage in his struggles. Emily called Jack. "See? I didn't say it's just your story." Jack smiled. "Yes, and now I know that what I did was right." There was a new dawn in Jack's life. The greenery of the farm seemed greener than before. The air felt fresher than before. The darkness of Lisa and Andrew had completely disappeared from his life. One day when Jack was taking care of his cattle at the farm, his phone rang. Then Umber was unaware, but he picked up the call. Jack ... It was Lisa's voice. Jack took a deep breath. He didn't expect this call, but he was ready now. "What do you want, Lisa?" said Jack in a cold voice. "I made a big mistake," Lisa said, crying. "I'm devastated. I have nothing left. No money, no home, no friends. Please, can we talk?" Jack was silent for a few moments, then responded, "You shouldn't apologize to me, Lisa. You should apologize to yourself. Your ruin is not because of me, but it is the result of your own actions." Lisa began to cry even louder, but Jack was no longer affected by her feelings. "There's nothing left between us after what you did," Jack said one last time and hung up the call. He immediately blocked Lisa's number. He looked back. Sarah was standing, contentment in his eyes. "Did he apologize?" asked Sarah. "Yes, but that doesn't make sense now," Jack said with a smile. He couldn't find a job. No one was willing to hire him. He was completely isolated in society. One day, she emailed Jack. "I'm sorry, Jack. I've made a mistake." Jack read the email, then deleted it without replying. Jack didn't worry about anything anymore. He took his form to a whole new level. He embraced technology, met new investors, and once again touched the heights of success with his hard work. Her story was not just for her, but for all those who had suffered betrayal. One day, a little girl came to her farm with her mother and said, "Your name is Jack, isn't it? What you did was very courageous. My dad was so inspired to read your story, and he too started his life all over again." Jack smiled. He now realized his revenge wasn't just punishing Lisa and Andrew. The real revenge was that he reinvented himself, maintained his self-esteem, and showed the world that no one could break him. The new morning sun was shining on the farm. There was a slight chill in the air, but there was a strange peace in Jack's heart. He was no longer a weak man who would have been shattered by a breach of trust. Now he was a man who saved his self-respect and moved on. Jack was sitting on the balcony drinking coffee when his daughter Sarah came up to him. "Dad, you're starting to be very quiet these days. Are you really happy?" Jack smiled and said, "Yes, son. Now I am happy because I proved myself. I saved my self-respect, and that was my biggest victory." Sarah put her hand on his arm. "You know, you not only saved yourself, but me as well. If you had given up, I might have lost faith in the world. But you taught me that self-respect is the most important thing." Jack's eyes became slightly moist, but he held himself up. Life always offers you a new chance. We just need to recognize that opportunity. During this time, Lisa and Andrew's world was completely shattered. Lisa was now struggling to make do with a small apartment. He had no money, no support. Her old friends had begun to see her as a cheating woman. Andrew's condition was even worse. His companies had him completely blacklisted. No one was willing to give him a job because his betrayal and betrayal were now known to everyone. One day, Lisa called Andrew. "We must be together now, Andrew. We've both made mistakes, but at least we can stick with each other." But Andrew said coldly, "It is because of you that my life has been ruined. I don't want anything with you." And he hung up the phone. Tears welled up in Lisa's eyes. Now he realized what he had done for what he had done. But now it was too late. A few months later, Jack was invited to a business conference. There he was awarded an honorary award, Most Resilient Entrepreneur of the Year. Standing on the stage, he said, "Life will make us fall again and again, but we have to decide whether to fall and cry or to get up and start anew. I didn't let my story become my weakness. I made my story my strength." Everyone in the hall stood up and clapped. Sarah looked up from behind the stage and smiled. "This is my father, a true warrior." Leaving old memories behind, Jack made a fresh start. He didn't let himself lose, but made him stronger than before. Now he had money, respect, and self-respect. But the greatest victory was that he didn't let himself down. If you were in Jack's place, would you take revenge too? Or would you have moved on? Let us know your opinion in the comments.